Hi folks, I'm Annabella Stover. I'm the Deputy Dean of Students, but I'd like to be known as Moodle enthusiast and champion in the university. I work in the area of student support.
Hello, and I'm Sam Taylor from Catalyst IT, and I'm the External Services Manager, and I've been a Moodler for 19 years, almost the 20-year mark to put my hand up for the last bit, but next year I'll do that then. And yeah, we're going to talk about a project that we've been working on.
Perfect.
Many years.
Many years. So really, we're going to take you on a journey. We've been on a journey for the last 8 years with this particular project, and we've got lots of new exciting things and features that we've been able to plug in this year. But really what I'm going to do is bring you initially through who we are, what the challenge was, and give you some idea of the evolution, how it happened, because it wasn't as fully baked as it is now. There was a lot of trial and error, and we're still very much learning as we go, even to see the impact of what we're doing at the moment. So maybe just to start, Dublin City University is in Dublin. It's a young university, first university students in 1989. We have a student body of almost 20,000 students coming from across the globe, so 120 plus different countries worldwide. And interestingly, we had 3 incorporating institutions into Dublin City University, and that brought about its challenges at the time. And 3 teaching campuses that remain within a close proximity of each other, an online campus and an international campus. So I'm going to start maybe by asking a question about your own orientation experience and your own transition experience. And really, a show of hands, how are you feeling when you got your offer and on day one? Hands up for those who are excited. Those who are a little anxious. Okay. Those who are confident. Okay, all right, so a bit of a mixed bag, and that's really what our experience is. And I suppose one of our biggest challenges when I came into role, I was managing an orientation program, and it was very much focused around event-driven orientation, primarily for undergraduate students. Postgrad students, they got a couple of hours, and they could come to a stand and ask a question, and they had printed material. But that was really it. So we had a heavy reliance on that event-driven piece. And as you know, with all that excitement and all those feelings that come into play when you're engaging in something new and something different, it can be a mixed experience for people. And also with event-driven orientation, you really are relying on the messaging being good and consistent across the board. And I suppose that's a significant challenge, particularly when there's some students who don't even get an orientation. So that was my experience coming in. How can we make that orientation experience a little better, more consistent? How can we ensure that they're getting the right messages that they need and that it isn't just information overload, which is what it is on day one. And then, we work very much in the student support area around building confidence. So how can we build that confidence? And it really starts coming from a place of trust, from my experience. And when you put in the effort to do something and assure students that you are there, that the supports are there, it really helps, particularly in those first 6 weeks. But I suppose I'm jumping ahead. But anyway, the challenge was, how do we create this framework? Something that was scalable for an organisation of our size to reach the breadth of different students that were coming. And essentially shift us, and it was a shift, to get us from very much a reactive mindset and, when the students come to us, we will look after them, to actually being proactive. And I suppose that was, the significant shift that took place with this particular project. So the Discover series. So maybe we talked about the challenge. So what it is it's inspired by that ethos of welcome, belonging, and well-being. We have a new health and wellbeing strategy that we've been rolling out the last number of years, but it's really focused around promoting that healthy start and students looking after each other in the community, looking after themselves. But also it provides information, short micro courses and activities to support student transition and success. Everything in bite-sized, so just picking up from your last presentation, which was fantastic, about how can we reach students. So we've purposely created short, micro pieces of learning and activities to support student transition. Early access, which is aimed at building that affinity early. So once somebody is an offer holder, they get access to Discover, and then that allows us to create this transitions ecology where you've got the online, you've got the in-person, you've got that continuous messaging. Pre and post orientation activities. I'm just off the back of doing 14 orientation talks. And that can be challenging in itself to be delivering out to students. But it also teaches students how to use Loop, which is our renamed Moodle. But that's something that was a significant challenge in the beginning with students and their digital skills and digital literacy. And really we found we were giving an orientation talk and saying, this is Moodle, Loop, and you'll be using it, and you really want to log on and figure it out. And in fairness, we just haven't had the resources to really support that. And we felt, is there a better way of doing this? So it's on Loop, on our Moodle, and it's that virtual environment where they can get in there and they can really start learning in a hands-on way. Accessible 24/7, which is throughout first year, available to all students, all incoming students, not just undergrads, but any new student to DCU. And then we've introduced personal self-assessment features to empower students so they can reflect, take action, and be mindful of their health and well-being as they progress in university. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the evolution. So we started not a hugely sophisticated version, but we were early adopters of H5P, and we created a short series of micro courses, so 8 micro courses, 3 focused on that beginning piece, which was that welcome piece, and that's starting well, and the rest on academic skills. And there was significant engagement from academic staff. We developed these resources. These are great. Can we use them? Can we plug them in? So that was starting to plant some ideas with us about how we might be able to develop this. This was underpinned by a strategy at the time, so Transforming Lives and Societies, our strategic plan at the time, and we were charged with creating a transitions program for students to really help around supporting students with transition progression and also in terms of their success. They also got a reward, so we were the first, I think, at the time, Rob, you may correct me, to issue a badge at the time. So again, it was very much learning as we go, but seeing what worked. Then moving forward then to 2020, 2021, it really set us up for COVID. And we had many conversations about how are we going to do this as a university. So we widened our SME pool of people who were involved in that student experience side and really looked to see, well, how could we do this? Do we use an external platform? Do we create a new app? What are we going to do? And then it was, well, why can't we use Moodle? We've already got something there. Can we build on it? And obviously things had changed in Moodle, and we really started to look to see, of the existing functionality, is there a way of repurposing that? So we set about repurposing existing things that were mainstream within Moodle, and then looking to see were there additional tools. So we included more H5P books and as I said, repurposed activities, set about setting some challenges for students. We also introduced gamification and Level Up, and that really, really supported the engagement. And coming out of that period, we had fantastic engagement. Bear in mind, students were a captive audience at the time, so they were really engaged. And if anything, they were looking for more to do, which was its own challenge. Excuse me. So pushing forward, then the next evolution was really around looking at what we were doing. And we have another project in the university, a futures project, that was really looking at embedding transversal skills in the curriculum. And we were heavily involved then in producing a set of life skills courses. So we said, how are we going to make this work? How is this going to work as a learning path? We were already on a road. How are we going to make this work so that it's not that cognitive overload? So how are we going to do this? So we looked at staging, and we looked at staging starting with orientation, retaining the fun activities and things that they do as part of orientation, then building in those life skills courses that were integrated initially into 10 programs, and they're now in 26 programs. Excuse me. And then also we looked at the other essential side of things, which was the community piece, which is the safe community piece, bystander intervention, consent, training. But there's a lot there. And the learning in this is while we had a reward system and it worked relatively well, particularly those that were embedded into the curriculum worked particularly well, we found that, getting students to completion was actually, quite a difficult task. And then, we really had to have a look at what it is that we're actually expecting and what's the goal here, So fast forward to a very new user experience for students. And you can see that's our learning map with the wonderful creative Sam and I were really trying to see how are we going to make this work for 2025. So our approach was really about really taking a step back and saying, okay, we've got so much material coming at students, which is what we didn't want to do in the first instance. So really thought about this stage just-in-time approach. We transformed the staging then using the learning map plugin, and Sam, you might say something about that a little later, to help with that cognitive overload. We added additional skills, new areas that obviously everything is changing and we need to be responsive and we need to be ahead of the game here in terms of where we are and what we're teaching students. So AI tools that are approved learning tools of the university, cybersecurity, keep us all digitally safe. And we look to see how are we going to present this to students, how are we going to time it, and then obviously it took a lot of negotiation with colleagues to help define, so we pulled all of our SMEs together to really, to fight this one out. Where do we think this is situated? Which was really hugely important, and everybody felt, we won't have any outliers, we'll try to bring in the messaging. Complex completion, so there's some areas that we said actually, some things are core, so they're must-knows. These are things that we need students to know. If you're working in the area I'm working on, it's very difficult to communicate policy. So you really have to think of creative ways of getting students to engage with policy, for example. So we had to really think about how were we designing activities and exercises and what was core and what was recommended. So we needed complex completion for that. We introduced healthy pit stops along the way. So we had healthy start activities during COVID, and we thought they resonated really well with students. So was there a way of using these clinically designed tools that, we worked with our health and wellbeing professionals within the university and said, let's just rethink these. Will these work in our new learning map? So we've introduced pit stops along the journey on the learning map. The gamification is enhanced because Moodle is enhanced and the Level Up plugin. So we've got those pop-up notifications, which I think are great, just to give you that little bit of an... Well. They sit in the header, yeah. So that great incentive to help push you along. And then integrated messaging, which is really, really key. So knowing where those channels of communications are, and which can be very many for students, and they really struggle or they just turn off and don't engage with email. So we integrated our messaging, so we're clear that as we're producing a newsletter, we're directing to where we think you should be. If you haven't tried this, give it an hour, you'll get caught up. So that proactive but coaching language, and a lot of my team are trained coaches, life coaches, so they're used to that kind of coaching messaging and really trying to encourage students to keep moving through it. So we've integrated that into our messaging and onto forums. So just under the hood, just in brief, So orientation, the usual stuff that you'd expect, really, getting ready tips. But really then, how to do DCU. So what does the terminology mean? So if it's an out-of-the-box university transitions program, everybody has something that looks like an academic calendar, but the language can be difficult for people to come to terms with, particularly postgrads, and people forget because they've already attended university previously, but it can be quite a different learning experience for them, and those simple things of language and terminology can be very confusing. So how to manage finances, again, very practical things, access to key services and support, and how to get involved with college life. But we scaled that right back. It was literally 20 minutes. This is an interactive activity, and that's what it is. We've got Healthy Start challenges, which I mentioned. A self-assessment tool. We integrated Compass Plus self-assessment feature where students will evaluate themselves in 7 areas of the Healthy Start assessment, just to see where they felt they were at, and then introduced coaching messaging depending on where they felt they were, and they got a really nice report afterwards then. That's their own personalised report. We introduced a new tool as well, DCU Campus Explorer, another project of mine, but it basically what it is, it's a digital twin of the university campuses, and we have an AI feature now. So we've had them engage that, so we've gamified Campus Explorer to include it into our scavenger hunt. So they watch the video and then they engage with, pick up some clues across the campus. A physical activity, so 5K walk, run and roll challenge. Safety activity around downloading, staying safe, and then cooking healthy on a budget. And I'll come back to that one near the end. That one's the challenge for next year. But just fun, short activities where students can engage, get some merchandise and some prizes for doing it, but also gaining experience points and levelling up. Essentials then is really what it says on the tin. It's about what are the core essentials. So approved technology tools at DCU. Again, there's so much constant change in this space, so we really want to educate students on what have you got access to, what are our recommended resources. Cybersecurity training that's been rolled out for staff and students. So we've introduced that. And then healthy relationships, which is a key piece for us. We originally would have had 3 different programs, and there was a lot of duplication, which is what happens when you've got different authors of things, But we started to look at how do we pull these together in a more integrated way. So there's something on healthy relationships, then tools to intervene safely and grow their learning confidence and become an active learner. So that's weeks 1 to 3. In later stages then, we've chunked these topics down, so they have a very intro-level cybersecurity piece, but during the advanced stage, they'll do an advanced stage. In the pro phase, they'll do a pro phase. So we've tried to make the activities incremental. And these are some of the other topics that we've also included during later stages, before I break the microphone. So how they track progress is obviously very different, and that was something that I think has been an ongoing challenge with Moodle, is how do I track progress? And while we think, what does it say on the tile? It says I'm 80% done, and people don't understand that in the beginning. It's just not clear. So for us, the learning path, so God bless whoever made the learning path, the learning map, it's wonderful. We've got really positive comments back from users already about it, because they can see very easily where they are, what they've done. So we've made it flexible though. We didn't give them a linear path. We said, there's got to be agency and choice in here around where they are, where their strengths levels are. So if there's a topic that they want to explore, they can jump ahead. The only thing we require is we've got a gateway in, which is, what do I need to do? So read the instructions, which are brief. The rewards, then we retained the badging and the experience points, obviously needed to modify to fit our new learning map. But they collect a badge for every stage, so for orientation, for essentials, for advanced and pro. And at the end, they will get the prize, which is the DCU Engage Award, which is recognised by industry in Ireland. So again, a nice carrot for getting them to do it, rather than doing it because we think it's a good thing to do, but also the learning that happens. So far, off the press, I think we're somewhere around just under 2,000 views now of Discover. A lot of people have already completed stage 1. I think we're somewhere around the 150 mark of stage 1, doing all the other interactive activities. 1,200 unique learners are engaging, and we've captured feedback. So what we've done is we've embedded feedback throughout, so kept the feedback consistent about what we were asking, so we could really start to gauge, and they could start to learn, okay, this is what they're looking for in this, because we want to be all about continuous improvement. So just some of the feedback. I'm not going to, maybe at a high level, some of the themes that were emerging: technology confidence, the flexible learning design, a gamified interactive approach, affinity and belonging, inclusive design. I know this will be available afterwards if you're interested, but some of them were really quite moving for me, reading them, to say, that people did feel at ease, that their anxiety levels were down just by engaging with it. The healthy focus. I love trying the new version of a healthy spice bag. Okay, that's a good one. But also, people feeling less anxious about starting university. The inclusive community piece, we weren't sure how that was going to land with people, and it did, which was great. And then we've got this feedback from a postgraduate student who identified as a postgraduate student. I'm sure the others are from postgrads, but some really good feedback from them. More to do. This I really don't know what to say. We had a good giggle about this one, really, which is about not liking the Cooking Healthy Challenge, because I don't like cooking, really. My parents cook. And then it kind of evolved, and I thought, okay, we need to maybe set a batch cooking exercise for them as a challenge next year, maybe. But we'll know more about the impact, I suppose, as we progress through the year. And we're hoping to do things like give them some extra research now in second semester, just to reflect on their learning and start to look at their resilience and their strengths as they're moving forward. I'm going to move on, because Sam, you're not going to have...
That's all right, this is your stage anyway.
So the key learnings, something that we've learned is to make it university specific. So it is specific to you and your organisation. That's really important, because it could be just something generic, and students deeply appreciated that, feeling that sense of community and belonging, knowing these were other students from the university, staff from the university. The cross-university partnership is key, so bringing expertise together. Doers, people who are thinkers, doers, who really want to make a difference. That's really key. Building in the flexibility and learner agency is so important. Retaining the fun factor, a must. And continued refinement. And as I said, it's been 8 years of this, and we've been really looking to see how can we make this better, and it's been made better with the tools that you as a community have made available to us, which is fantastic. So if there's anything that you think would be good for us, rolling on 26, that would be super. It is resource intensive. It's a lot of work. And so really managing it in incremental phases, I suppose is key. Surveying the horizon, what's coming out, what's changing. And for me, having Sam, having the teaching enhancement unit and colleagues internally, but also having Catalyst, Sam has been a fantastic resource to say, how can we do this? Is there anything out there? Or Sam will say,
I'll come in and go, Annabella, I've just found the best plugin.
Perfect. So this works really well for me. But just to have that kind of horizon scanning to see what is going to be better and keeping up with it, because the expectation from students is, this shouldn't be clunky, this should be working, this is not how things work. Keeping up with those expectations, I think is really key. And I suppose for me, what's come out of this is that Moodle can be that 24/7 companion for students. And that anchor, and it really has been for our students. So I thank you as a community, and it's really great. As I said, I'm a Moodle enthusiast and learner, but Sam will talk a little bit about the plugins and the other features for those of you. Yeah.
And I will be very, very quick, because it was all about Annabella and DCU's story. But for those of you who are learning technologists and site administrators, I just wanted to highlight some of the plugins that have been used for this journey. And the learning map, as Annabella said, was introduced this year, And if you remember her slides before, when she presented me with this pathway, it was all a learning map. It was a learning map. And then Moodle did a brilliant webinar this year where they introduced the learning map. And I went straight to Annabella and said, I have found the best plugin. Let's just relook at everything, reorganize it, and let's use the learning map. And we had a lot of fun, a lot of late nights and late discussions. So we use the learning map plugin, Compass Plus for Brickfield. That's for the self-assessment feedback. The wonderful checklist plugin, so the healthy activities, that was using the checklist plugin. Filter codes to personalize the messaging to students. So when you log in, it says, hey, Sam, rather than just welcome to the course. Level Up, of course, for the gamification aspect. Subcourse to allow academics to plug the courses into their own modules, but also for us to be able to create a pathway that didn't make the course feel so big. H5P, we need to have a discussion about whether to continue using the plugin or the core Moodle, or is there another tool, so who knows. And also Widget Hub, really good for creating nice labels in a nice display. And then finally, again, for you learning designers, these are the mechanisms that we use. So obviously activity restriction, so we use that to lock certain areas and unlock them as and when. Activity completion, so students can follow the path. Badging for each stage. Cohort enrollment, so this is to help Annabella track which undergrad, postgrad, and research students were doing it and looking for the reports. And then finally looking at the course reports just to see how active and engaged the cohort are and what are the activities that students are doing more of and which ones are they avoiding. But anyway, it was just my little bit. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you so much. That was some time. Thank you. We have some time for a couple of questions. Here. Oh, I don't know. You're in the middle.
Thanks very much. I probably could ask a lot of questions, but I'll just stick to one. In terms of the new students that arrive in, do you have a set target of how many people are going to complete the course in terms of, like, if it's mandatory, etc.? And do you see that number drop off over time?
So at the moment, I suppose if we think about how many undergrad students, we have roughly 3,000 of undergraduate students. Postgraduate students, a lot more than that. I suppose it's a bit of a slow burn with some people, which is why the messaging is so important. We could see a drop off last year. We had a new student information system introduced, which slowed down in terms of enrollment. Rob's nodding. It slowed down enrollment into the interface. So I think for us this year, we felt, we don't have specific targets setting out. This is very much about, it's a new phase, so we're going to see how we go. But the messaging is key. So, hoping that, we will hit somewhere near the 50% mark would be fantastic, And that's ambitious to see people get to badge completion, of different levels, But the engagement is good, so I'm feeling good about that.
You didn't mention your Times Higher Ed nomination as well.
We got it.
Yeah.
50% would be really good for,
would be good.
for people coming in.
Yeah.
Do we have? Okay, the other. I'm going. I need to run. This is a lot of exercise after lunch. Okay. Oof. Yes.
People are coming to the next one.
Hello.
Well done.
Just curious if teachers were engaged in the orientation process, or were they affected of some sort?
So we still do face-to-face program-specific orientation. So what we've done is we've completely remodeled what the digital orientation and face-to-face orientation looks like. So we have set a minimum expectation across the board of what we expect a front-facing orientation should be. So, I manage that as well. They weren't involved specifically around, they may decide that they wanted to plug in on sub-course some elements of these life skills in to their courses. But in terms of the orientation, they're still giving their face-to-face orientation. But what is communicated out is all of the messaging that we have done. So this is what is there. This is the scaffold. that is there, or the blueprint that how we think students are going to be progressing forward. And we've communicated that out so the staff are aware. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Annabelle. Thank you, Sam. Thank you. Well, round of applause, please.